Hello everyone, in today's video, this is intended to be the companion to the Command Modern Operations feature video on the F-18. And here we have an F-18. So what we're going to do today is we're going to be flying from Charlie Tango Golf 3, which is due to appears as a payback all the way over to Quebec, Jean Lesage International Airport. And we use the exact same conditions as we had in Command Modern Operations. Obviously, lousy weather, and it's also tending to get pretty dark. And it's going to be kind of a fun opportunity to kind of do apples to apples. So let's go ahead and get this party started. Now, there's a lot of really neat things that they did in this particular aircraft, including leaving this pin here. And if you forget to remove it, you will not be able to raise your landing gear. I've done it more than one time, I'd care not to admit. With that all out of the way, we'll go ahead and take a look down the side. One thing I love is you can pop open the avionics compartment. Isn't that so cool? And of course, we can come around the back and just take a look at the size of the engines and everything on this very, very, very impressive airplane. Well, I'm satisfied. Let's climb on inside. So now getting this aircraft started is relatively straightforward in the sim. In the real world, there's a lot of navigation-y things you have to kind of set up, but for us, we have a pretty easy time of it. So what I'm going to do is swing over here on the left, go ahead and get some oxygen flowing. We're definitely going to need that. Swinging over here, this is where we'd reset our rudder trims in our FCS system. That's fine. All these feeding things, all that stuff, we can basically leave that alone. Don't turn on the fuel dump. That would be embarrassing for all of us. Come down here. Again, exterior lights, we can leave those on and things like that just to make sure that's running. This is perfectly fine. We're not carrying any stores. We'd have long-range anti-ship missiles or something along those lines. We'll leave that alone. Air-to-ground master, leave that alone. I'm just going to kind of float around here, and I kind of float down here, make sure everything's okay. So as far as these controls goes, I like leaving this on automatic. It keeps it simple. We're going to use the barometric altitude. We are going to be dealing with nighttime brightnesses, so we're going to turn that down a little bit, and we're going to have to fiddle with brightness a lot, as you're going to see later on. All right, that's all taken care of. I float down here. Don't really need to hit these. They don't do anything in this airplane. It's a stress button for me, all right? All right. We'll float down on this side where electrical power is ready to go. Very, very simple. We're just going to turn on the battery. I'd like to hit the reset button after that. And one thing you just want to do is as soon as you hit that battery, run over here real quick and go ahead and pop on the APU. It's going to take a few minutes to get going, so I just kind of let it go. All right, that's all set. I can hear that thing getting really loud in my ears. I hope you can hear it too. So what we're going to do here is we're going to get everything nice and bright inside here. Again, it doesn't have to be massively bright, but I'm like about 50-50. Leave that one alone, by the way. You'll know what I mean. We can also hit our light test here and turn on the party, but that's fine. None of this is going to work. I'm going to leave that alone. We're going to flip over here. In the real world, you'd have to pop this to ground into your positions and all that stuff, but I'm just going to pop it right to nav. Nothing bad's going to happen here as far as that goes. We can flip our radar on. Like I said, it's not going to do anything, so don't stress about that too much. So that all taken care of, we can then kind of get ready for our actual operation here. I did preload this mission, just like I said I did earlier. So what I'm going to do is come over here to waypoint. We're going to select the waypoint we're going to. Let's see here, waypoint. We can go through the different waypoints here. That's about 95.7. We can turn on our sequence, and we can actually see a flight plan here as well. The reason I really like that is if I float up here, you can actually see that will be accurately represented right up here, which is kind of nice. One thing I do notice is that's way too bright. So one of the things you're going to want to do is play with this and do nothing because there is no video on this one. But if we crank on this one on the left, you can crank that down to a much, much more reasonable brightness. Again, reasonable brightness is what I said here. Now, what we want to do here, too, is one of the things I like to do is pop this over to the engine page whenever I'm doing any startup with this aircraft because it makes it just a little bit easier to kind of keep an eye on what's going on with the different components here. Push the button. I like how there's a TAC page and it's got all that stuff. Target data, ANZEL. You can also turn on the heads-up display, which is very, very helpful. Fuel FPAS. Am I being absolutely blind now? I'm not being blind. It's right there. Cool. Startup on this, very, 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 very simple. What we're going to do in the real world is we, of course, once the APU's on, we'd hit the starter, and then basically we have to go like this and pull the thing off the little detent here. See where it says the word off? This one doesn't care. So we can actually, not cheat, but it's just not hard. So what I'm going to do is come over here. I'm going to grab this and pull this to the right and go ahead and let go. And what that's going to do is it's going to start the party on the right. Watch the nozzle. There it goes. Good old convergent divergent nozzle doing its thing. Nice. Fabulous. We got a good start on that engine. And I can come over here and see it very clearly how everything has kind of opened itself up and is working nicely, actually. I'm not complaining at all. Pop that to auto. It doesn't really matter here. All right, temperature is good. RPM is good. We're just going to give it a few more moments. We can take a look at the rest of the parameters over here on the right, should we need to. That looks good to me. That looks good to me. Pressure, thrust. Yeah, that's awesome. All right, let's go pop on the generator. That's going to get us some electrical power. And it's also normally like half the stuff would turn on when you do that. All right, let's swing over to this side and get the other one going. Nice and easy. We just drag it over there to the left. I can hear it making noise. Trying to make the most dramatic camera angle possible. It's just hard with my thumb. There we go. That's what I'm talking about. Nice. With that sucker all booted up and ready to go, we can quickly do a quick conversion. Just make sure everything's engine. Again, engine status 1. Good. Coming down here, the speeds are good. RPM is coming up smoothly. We got a little bit of fuel flow. There is a fuel flow issue with this plane. I've said that out loud, so don't be mad at me when I complain we're out of gas. You'll see what I mean when it happens. All right, that's pretty good to me. Oil pressure is good. Thrust, gosh, that's a lot of thrust. That's idle thrust, too. Of course, I think they did it in newtons, and also you can see the lovely frame generation doing an awful job of just muddling things. All right, that looks good to me. Both engines are running smoothly. We're going to pop off the APU. We're going to come over here. We're going to pop on the generator. And normally what you do is you'd hit that lovely reset as well, just to make sure everything's running smoothly. Rudder shim reset. The FCS has been reset. Everything is good to go. Let's go zoom out so I can see where the heck I am here. So this is going to be pretty easy for us. I'm just going to go ahead and release the parking brake and give it a little tap. It does not take much to get this thing rolling on the ground. If you're having issues, by the way, with your nose wheel steering, 2 things you need to check. First of all, make sure this says nose wheel steering. If it does not, you're going to need to set the button in your controls. Second thing you need to be mindful of is this lovely retracting switch. If you have the launch bar in the opposite position, you will find that you cannot steer. I'm not sure what they were trying to achieve with that, but it must be something to do with like a carrier add-on or something like that. Like I said, I'm not too worried about it. All right, now one thing we could do, of course, is do the HMD, helmet mounted display. You can see that clearly on the middle of my screen here. I don't find this helpful at all because it doesn't disappear when I move my head down here like it would in the real plane. But if that works for you, it works for you, kind of thing like that. I'm not too worried about it. All right, wind is calm, which is a little weird because I think over in command it's actually pretty nasty, but that's okay here. All right, give it a nice gentle hit of the brake. And again, remember you are an F-18, you're a little top heavy. There we go. Very nice. Very, very nice. One thing you can do to check, too, is just if you do have an afterburner enable, I actually like to take off without afterburners so I don't damage the landing gear in this thing. But again, whatever works for you. Whatever works for you. All right, everything's good. Controls are nice and smooth. I don't feel anything weird. After takeoff, we're basically just going straight. Keeps it nice and easy. About half power. Crouches. Like I said, full throttle. No afterburner. Plenty of runway. Put your hand on the landing gear lever.
Pull out, pull out.
I know, right? That was smooth. Look at how easy that was. I always think of the movie Hot Shots Part 2, or Part 1, actually. The Navy instead of Navy. I don't know, it puts a smile on my face every time. All right, we've got work to do. So if this were a real-world scenario, of course, as we had over in command, we would have done a carrier launch here. But we're not doing a carrier launch. We're keeping it relatively conventional as far as this goes. With this all taken care of, I would normally pop onto the FPAS page, which is going to give us some information we need to basically keep everything smooth and an easy flight here. Climb speed for this one, usually around Mach 0.8, is going to get you plenty. A full throttle is going to get us there plenty quick. Obviously, at any point, I can click on the burners, and again, you can see just how dark it would have been in the command scenario. I set everything exactly the same here. It's also kind of neat to see the terrain here and really get a feel for it, and just understand just how dangerous these scenarios are if you were to lose track of where you were. It really is amazing when you think about what we can do with this technology here. All right, Mach 53, or 0.53, I should say there. Just taking a peek down here. Normally what you could do is you could hit the climb button, and what that would do is basically give you a little display to help you control your speed in the climb. But we're climbing fine here. You can see the nose is up at about 15 degrees or so, and it's just sailing. Like I said, nothing too crazy here. I could kick on the burner and kind of get a little bit more climb out of it, but I don't need to, because one of the biggest concerns we have with this scenario is getting there and getting back, which means limited fuel. So we don't want to touch the fuel if we don't have to. We could even go one step further if we wanted. We could even pop over here and make everything fuel related just to keep an eye on the fuel consumption, because this airplane, it just chugs it and chugs it and chugs it. I'm actually going to increase the brightness just a tiny bit here. This is a lovely time of day. Could you imagine having those long-range anti-ship missiles? You go like this, and you could just see those giant angry pricks basically hanging out underneath you. By that, I'm referring to like a needle kind of a thing. And angry points, just ready to stab something kind of a thing, like, like a thorn, like I was saying. Just scary, scary, scary stuff. And again, that's so much, so much. This is so beautiful. One thing for sure, the turbulence is wonderful for us today, which I don't mind. There's that sun. Oh, yeah, the pilots would not have liked this flight at all. All right, what I'm going to do now is that we're getting up over 18,000 or so, and I want to kind of level off. I'm climbing way, way too steep, and that's not going to go well for us once we get a little tiny bit higher here. I'm just going to bring the nose down a little bit here, and we're going to climb at kind of our usual 7.5 degrees, which is a little bit flatter. But again, as we start to build up speed, it's not going to matter. Our climb will basically overwhelm the different drag that we have. Again, fly-by-wire on this one. You put the plane where you want it, and you let go, and it sort of sorts itself out. And again, at no point have I actually plugged the burner. And one of the things I've learned from reading a lot of the books actually published by pilots who flew these in the real world is they always comment that the moment you light that burner up, it's a lot. It's a wonderful tool, but golly, it really sucks the gas down, especially in the A-18E here, which is a much bigger plane. All right, so let's go ahead and come down here real fast here and take a quick little look. We got a little ways to go, and we got a couple little waypoints. And again, for those of you who saw the command video, you already have a good idea of what was going on here. Of course, we could have our radar going and really understand everything going on, but this works fine. And one of the things we can actually do is shut the map off, just make it a little bit more clear for what's going on. And again, just that one less glare on our screen there. All right, we're going to go ahead and get over the lovely angle of attack curve here. I'm going to go ahead and tap the burner. We're over 20,000 feet, so the burner is not going to be as hard on gas. Swing to my left just a tiny bit. And again, if you're looking right up at the top, you can see my little navigation kind of pointing to a little arrow when you're on course here. And now you can see I'm right on course there. Bring the nose down a little bit. We don't need to be climbing that steep. And we'll shut the burner off in a second once we get a little tiny bit more airspeed. Again, you're going to get your speed from your climb from your speed here. There we go. Burner's off. I believe on this one, it's just something you have to pull it up over. Oh, yeah. If you look really carefully, you've got these two fingers here. You pull that up to get over it. It's actually kind of neat how that works. I just think that's neat. Definitely not a MiG-19, no, where you have to push a button to get military power and then push a different button to get burners. Like, who thought that was a good idea? I don't know half the time. Alrighty then. Let's go ahead and get our heading selected here. Heading and track. It's basically perfect. Kind of don't like the way that this works here. Like, normally you just sort of crank on it. And you can see this is taking half a second to kind of get into position here. Oh, boy. A little bit further. There we go. And again, all we're trying to do is get that nice and centered up so we can use the automatic pilot in a moment here. 28 grand. Speaking of autopilots, we can go ahead and tap on heading hold. That's going to put us on FPA. One of the things we can't do here is we can't couple this. We could do, this would be one of those things that's kind of fun to play with. There it is. Couple's right there. There it is. Now that I push couple, this aircraft should actually lock onto the waypoint. And you see how it does this little left-right wobbly thing? That is Microsoft. That is not the F-18E that's doing that shenanigan here. So it's what it is, which is why I would actually recommend coming here and just pressing HDG, because then it will attempt to lock onto the heading I selected, which, if you remember, is basically the direction we want to go anyway. And again, it's still got a little bit of that waggle back and forth. It's just going to be the way it's going to be. I'm not worried about it. Speed's getting a little low, but we're over 30. Turn on the burner again for a second here. I like how it's just a switch. At least on my joystick, it's just a switch. Look at that. Oh, that's amazing. Oh, I'm trailing black smoke. It's probably a bad thing. I'm not going to worry about it. All right, let's go ahead and disengage the automatic pilot. I'm just going to push this over. We are climbing way too steep here. There we go. And again, I'm just trying to build up a little bit of speed to finish up my climb. There's Mach 74. We can bring up the brightness just a little bit. There we go. Nice. Mach 78 there, 0.78 I should say. And again, that's kind of the sweet spot. Right there. Perfect. Trying to conserve a little bit of fuel here. To our left just a little bit. We have 2,000, basically 1,500 feet to go, and then we're going to level off, get everything all trimmed up, and then we're going to switch to fly-by time compression. That's the best way to describe it. F-18, when it comes to maneuvering, it just feels like a heavy F-18C. It's the best way to describe it. When you go to turn, it just doesn't quite have that lack of inertia that the smaller cousin does. But one thing this has is it just has the range. Like an F-18C, that's where you get to the end of the catapult and you're already ready to get fuel in this thing. That's what I'm not as worried about, even though if you take a look real quickly here, you can see how fast I've absolutely burnt through all the fuel that I was carrying. All right, looking good, looking good. Man, could you imagine this? Just picking up enemy radar signals the whole time and just sort of chilling at these altitudes? I don't know about you, but that would just scare me to death. All right, ballistic altitude hold is on. Couple waypoint is on. All right, let's go ahead and start trimming for cruise. Off. All right, let's see here. I got 0.78. That's pretty good. Yeah, 0.78. Am I gonna live at 0.78? One of the things you can do, which works really well in this aircraft, switch to HUD. It makes it just easier to see things. All right, so let's go back to our FPAS page. 0.78 is feeling pretty good. I think that's a very comfortable speed for us. Wherever the throttle is, don't touch it. Ooh. Pull it back a little tiny bit. And again, there's no auto throttle in this aircraft for that purpose. All right, what do we got here? So to 2,000 pounds, we have 2 hours. It's not bad. Best Mach right now is actually 0.84. So we can go a little bit faster than this. So let's take advantage of that information. I just love I could just light the burner for a second. There we go. That's a little better. All right, let's see what that does for us. So to 2,000 pounds is 962. We have 2 hours of endurance. Fabulous. We're doing 86, though. We're going a little too fast here. Let's see, optimum altitude would be a little bit higher for us, but that's okay. And like I said, 84, that's a fabulous speed. All right, it is now time to travel by map, because it's certainly going to take us a little while to get to our destination here. A little less throttle. One of the tricks I learned in Flight Sim 10 FSX is you could actually use just a little bit of burner to get a little more range, but that was the C model. This is the E model. So it's a little bit heavier, a little bit higher drag here. I don't need that much thrust. I keep pulling the throttle back and it doesn't slow down. All right, let's see here. Current, we're doing 83, 870. It's plenty of range. Gives us 10,000 pounds to go. That's fabulous. And that looks good to me. I'll zoom in a little bit, and I'll catch you all when it comes time for the assault. All right, party time. Let's do it. So if you remember from the command scenario, for those of you who did take a chance to watch that, the basic trick here was we kind of hung out a little bit to the east, kind of in northern Maine, and then we kind of popped over the mountain range for the purpose of our assault. Unfortunately, this lovely flight plan we happen to be on takes us anything but. It basically is flying us directly over where those ships would be. That's perfectly fine for us, though, because it gives us an opportunity to kind of see what it would look like. And then, of course, we'll grab that other side in a second once we get a little closer. So one of the great things about this aircraft is it is very tolerant of these high-speed stupidities here. You can see the little speed brakes popping out of the side there. Man, my ears would not be happy with me right now. One of the things you got to watch out for is blacking out when you get to the bottom of this. You can see I'm already about 5.3 Gs. This is also penetration of instrument conditions. And it looks good to me. Okay, fabulous. So in this scenario, of course, where the enemy vessels would have been is right off my left wing here. Again, for those of you who saw it. And you could see here just how much room there is across this huge, huge area that would allow those weapons to basically have plenty of time to be engaged. It also shows you that my trick shot, again, for those of you who saw the video, trying to use the tactical tomahawk didn't work. You can see very carefully that none of that was going to get through. Again, it was just too easy there. All right, so you can see I pushed myself right into a stall. One of the great things about the F-18 is it doesn't care. It handles all the bad angle of attack. Whee! It's amazing. Yeehaw! Yeah, there it is. Gotta love that. Gosh, that's amazing when you think about it. And you can see just like that. All right, so in this scenario, our weapons would have been coming out of that mountain range right over there. And you can see that they would have had plenty of time to be picked up on radar, which probably explains why they weren't as successful as they actually were. But that's crazy. All right, let's go ahead and do a little bit of hot dogging here and get ourselves right up to the target area. If we were doing this as an actual scenario, of course, we'd be a lot lower than this. So let's get a lot lower than this. There we go, nice and fast. Go ahead and reset my view so it's comfortable. And let's go ahead and scare some people. So you can see the acceleration in the F-18 is breathtaking. I'm basically going to overspeed the aircraft. And there's Mach 1 right there. Fabulous. There we go, a little bit of nose down. You can actually pop off the afterburners here. And after you've kind of built up that much speed, I'm essentially super cruising here. This is definitely fast enough. And we'll go ahead and do a classic Navy landing, too, when we get there. So, again, speaking tactically, I'm not even touching the controls right now. And you can see it's just sinking little tiny bits. But it's just unbelievably stable platform, much more so than even an F-16. F-16s are wonderful, wonderful airplanes with incredible fly-by-wires, but doing stuff like this to them, it tends to get a little twitchy, but that's okay. Good to me right there. I'm going to go ahead and level off. Again, if the things were shooting at us, this is about as low as I'd trust to go. Any lower than this, you're going to hit something. And bumping the ground is just as bad as bumping a missile. Just saw a little flare of light off my windscreen there for half a second, and my brain went, huh? Interesting thing here is that was 0.5 Gs down right there, just to give you an idea of that. And Quebec's coming up in a few moments here. Just gonna let it kind of glide, pulling due west more or less. Fabulous. Still gotta land this thing, unfortunately, but that's okay. It's part of the fun. All right, our destination will be there in a few seconds. Hey, there's that ship. That's awesome. Meanwhile, I saw the circus. I recognize half the things I just flew over. Not bad. Not bad. Turns out I remember where it was. All right, let's land. Now, let's make this a proper carrier landing, too. I'll put down the hook. Seeing as we have no carriers to land on, we'll just do a simulated carrier landing on the airport there. That's right over there. This thing is just so easy handling. It gets a little weird when it gets slow. I will absolutely 100% admit to that. All right, you can see this aircraft is very dirty right now. Gotta let that nose drop a little bit. There's the runway, and I will do this as a, like I said, a carrier landing here. All right, flaps are deployed. Our hook is down. All right, let's do it. So the game here is we play the staple game, and you're trying to get your circle to be in the middle of that letter E. You'll see what I mean. All right, slow down a little bit. Okay, double check to make sure everything is in the down position that has to be down. Landing gear are good. Hook is down. Whenever you deal with fighters, if you start getting slow, just stomp on it. All right, there we go. All right. Again, we're just doing the classic carrier. Whoa. I do not like the fly-by-wire simulation over in Flight Sim. It's just not very realistic. All right. We're a little fast. Again, we're going to pretend that's the wire. And... That's a Navy landing. Nothing smooth about that. Nice. What an awesome airplane. All right. Hook's coming up. Of course, this would be after we get released and everything like that. And now you can see we have no steering, just like I promised before. And of course, the only way to get the steering back is I have to go get the nose wheel steering button. But I think this is a pretty good place to go ahead and pause our video. So absolutely fabulous plane. It was neat to see the terrain that we were just launching missiles over basically a few moments ago. Neat area. It's a lot flatter than it looks in relief mode, but you can see how it kind of would have worked. Enjoy.